If you don't like it, you can leave." Those words came out of my son's mouth like it was nothing, like he was just commenting on the weather, like he hadn't just plunged a knife into my chest. And the worst part wasn't the words. The worst part was that my daughter-in-law, Jessica, just smiled as she tucked my pension money into her purse. My pension, my money, my house. My name is Linda. I'm 51 years old, and what I'm about to tell you is the story of how my own son kicked me out of my house, not knowing that the house was never his. It all started 6 months earlier on a Sunday in October. Ryan showed up with 2 large suitcases and a woman wearing stilettos in the house, Jessica. 28 years old, red nails, a perfect smile. "Mom, it's just temporary," my son said, dropping the bags in the living room. "Just a couple of months while we save up for our own place." I opened the door. I opened my fridge. I opened my entire life. "This is your home, Ryan." "It always has been." Ryan hugged me. Jessica gave me 2 kisses on the cheek and said I was a sweetheart of a mother-in-law. I should have seen the signs from that very first day. The first few weeks were strange. Jessica reorganized my furniture to make it look more modern. She put my wedding photograph in a box because the frame was too old. She threw away my floral curtains because nobody uses those anymore, Linda. I kept quiet. You don't want to cause problems in your own home. Ryan worked later, so he said, and I was left alone with her in the afternoons. Jessica would watch TV in the living room, feet on my coffee table, eating from my plates without washing them afterward. "Linda, can you get me a glass of water?" she'd ask without even looking up from the screen. And I would go, because she was my daughter-in-law, because she was my son's wife. But something inside me started to tighten like a knot. One day I found my memory box open. The letters my mother wrote me before she died were scattered on my bed. "Oh, Linda, sorry," Jessica said when I confronted her. "I was looking for a place to store my shoes and thought that box was empty." Empty. 30 years of memories. Empty. The months passed, and the house stopped smelling like cinnamon and coffee. Now it smelled like expensive perfume and something darker, like displacement, a silent invasion. I kept cooking, cleaning, paying the light bill, the water, the gas. Ryan didn't ask me how I was anymore. Jessica didn't even pretend to be polite. And then came that Tuesday in April I will never forget. I had gone to the bank in the morning. I needed to withdraw money for my blood pressure medication. But when I tried to use my card, the machine said, "Insufficient funds." "There must be a mistake," I told the teller. There was no mistake. I returned home with my stomach in a knot. I opened the door, and there was Jessica sitting at the dining room table with a stack of cash and my debit card in her hand, my entire pension, withdrawn, without asking. "Jessica," I said, my voice calmer than I felt. "What did you do?" She didn't even flinch. "I took out this month's money, Linda. We need to talk." Ryan appeared from the kitchen with a beer in his hand. My son, the boy I had carried in my arms, the one who cried on my lap when his father abandoned us, the one who swore he'd always take care of me. "Mom, sit down," he ordered. I sat down. My heart was beating so hard I thought it would burst out of my chest. "Look, Mom," Ryan began, and his voice sounded different, hard, cold. "Jessica and I have been talking. We've been here for 6 months and you haven't wanted to discuss money." "What money, Ryan?" "This is your home. It always was." Jessica let out a dry laugh. "Linda, let's be honest. This house has 3 bedrooms, a living room, a big kitchen. We live here, we take up space, we use electricity, water, gas. Someone has to pay for that." I looked at my son, waiting for him to say something to stop her to remember. But Ryan just took a drink of his beer and nodded. "It's fair, Mom. You have to chip in if you're going to live here with us." Live here with them. In the house I bought with my own hands. In the house where I raised that ungrateful son. "So we decided," Jessica continued, stuffing the cash into her fake Louis Vuitton bag, "that your pension will cover the household expenses. Consider it your rent for living here. It's only fair." The silence that followed was so heavy you could touch it. "And if I don't agree?" I asked. Ryan slammed his beer on the table. He looked me straight in the eye and said those words that still burn inside me. If you don't like it, you can leave. No one is forcing you to stay." Jessica smiled, a smile of triumph, of victory. I just sat there looking at this man I no longer recognized as my son. And then for the first time in 6 months, I smiled too. I stood up slowly, very slowly. I walked to my room without saying a single word. I heard them laughing in the living room. "You finally put your foot down," Jessica said. "It was necessary," Ryan replied. "It's time she understood how things are." I opened my dresser drawer. I took out a small rusted key that hung from a thin chain. That key had been hidden there for 25 years, ever since the day I signed the papers, ever since the day I made the hardest decision of my life, the decision I never thought I'd have to use. I put the key in my pocket, took a deep breath, and went back to the living room. They were still laughing, celebrating, and I was still smiling. Because there are things sons don't know, things that mothers keep silent for years, hoping they never have to reveal them. But that day, that cursed Tuesday in April, I understood that silence can also make you an accomplice, and I was done being an accomplice to my own humiliation. The key felt heavy in my pocket, like a promise of justice. Sometimes we trust the wrong people. Have you ever been disappointed by someone you loved? Tell me your story in the comments. I want to read it. There are moments in life when you need to remember how you got where you are. That night after Ryan and Jessica locked themselves in their room, my guest room, I sat in the kitchen with a cup of chamomile tea. The key was still in my pocket, burning like a hot coal. But before I tell you what I did, you need to understand who I was, who Linda was, before I became the inconvenient mother-in-law, before I was the mother who was in the way, because there was a time when this house smelled different. I was 23 when I met Greg. He worked at his father's hardware store, and I sold sweet pastries at the local farmer's market. It was 1997, and the world seemed simpler then. Greg had big hands and an easy laugh. He won me over with sweet words and promises of a home of our own. "You'll see, Linda," he'd tell me as we walked through the park on Sundays. "We're going to have a house with a yard, a place where our kids can run around barefoot." We got married in February of '98. Ryan was born a year later. At first, we lived in a tiny apartment near the bus station. 2 rooms, a shared bathroom, walls so thin we could hear the neighbors arguing. But it was ours. We were happy. Greg worked 12 hours a day. I took care of Ryan, and in the afternoons, I made tortillas to sell in the neighborhood. $2 a dozen. We saved every penny for a down payment on a house. Ryan was a beautiful, chubby baby with rosy cheeks who laughed at everything. He loved to sit in this kitchen while I kneaded the dough, asking me to make him tiny tortillas, just like the real ones, Mommy. When I grow up, my son would tell me with those huge eyes, "I'm going to buy you a beautiful house with a garden so you can plant roses." I'd kiss his forehead and tell him we were already rich, because we had him. But life has cruel ways of teaching you that happiness doesn't stay put. Ryan was 5 when Greg started coming home late, smelling of perfume that wasn't mine, with increasingly absurd excuses. I had to help a customer. The car broke down. I was just talking with the guys. I kept quiet. You keep quiet about a lot of things when you have a young child and a paycheck that barely stretches. Until one Saturday morning, while Ryan was playing with his toy cars, Greg packed a bag and told me, "I met someone else, Linda. I'm sorry." Just like that. No drama, like someone canceling a dentist appointment. "And Ryan?" I asked. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just asked about my son. "I'll send money," Greg lied, "but I need to restart my life." He left that same day. Ryan asked for his dad for weeks. I told him he was working far away, that he'd be back soon. He never came back. The money he promised never arrived. The calls became less frequent, then stopped altogether. Greg rebuilt his life with a younger woman in Austin. They had 2 daughters. Ryan ceased to exist for him, and I was left alone with a 5-year-old boy and the income from selling tortillas. But here is the part my son never knew. 2 years after Greg left, Mr. Anderson, the owner of the department store where I had started working, called me into his office. "Linda," he said, "I've been watching you. You're hardworking, honest, responsible. I have a proposal." Mr. Anderson had no children. His wife had died young. He lived alone in a big house in the Willow Creek neighborhood, a house that felt too big, too quiet. "I need someone trustworthy," he explained. "Someone to look after the house when I'm gone to keep it alive." He offered me a deal. If I worked for him for 25 years, in the store and taking care of the house when he traveled, at the end of that time, the house would be mine. "But there's one condition," he said. "Nobody can know, not your family, not your son. This stays between you, me, and the papers we're going to sign with the lawyer." I was 28 years old. I had a 7-year-old son. I had no visible future. I signed those papers on a Tuesday in November 2001. For 25 years, I cared for that house as if it were mine, because I knew one day it would be. I watered the plants, polished the hardwood floors, kept the windows clean so the sun could shine in. Ryan grew up within those walls, never knowing the truth. He thought Mr. Anderson let us live there out of pity, out of charity. I never told him otherwise. Why didn't I tell him? Because I was scared. Scared something would go wrong. Scared Mr. Anderson would change his mind. Scared of giving my son hope that might be shattered like all the promises his father made him. Mr. Anderson passed away 3 years ago. On the day of his funeral, his lawyer gave me the deed. The house was mine. Legally, completely, irrevocably mine. I cried that day. I cried for the good man who gave me what my husband never could. I cried for the 25 years of silent work. I cried with relief. But I still didn't tell Ryan. He just thought I had inherited the house from Mr. Anderson for being a loyal employee. I let him believe it. Why complicate things? My son moved out on his own at 23. He got a job at a logistics company. I stayed in my house, taking care of my roses, drinking my cinnamon coffee in the mornings, living the peace I had earned. Until that Sunday in October when Ryan knocked on my door with suitcases and a woman in red heels. That night in the kitchen, with the tea growing cold in my hands, I remembered all of it. I remembered the 23-year-old girl selling pastries. I remembered the single mother kneading dough to feed her son. I remembered the 25 years of silent work. I remembered every dollar saved, every sacrifice, every sleepless night, wondering if Ryan would have enough for school. And I remembered the promise I made myself the day I received that deed. No one will ever take away what it took me a lifetime to earn. No one, not even my own son. I got up from the table, washed the cup, and put it away. I turned off the kitchen lights. Tomorrow I would do what had to be done. Tomorrow I would start to get my dignity back. As I tell this, I wonder where you're listening from. Write the name of your city in the comments. The next morning I woke up before dawn. There's a certain kind of pain that doesn't let you sleep. It keeps you staring at the ceiling, wondering at what point everything went so wrong. I got up, put on my blue robe, the one Ryan gave me years ago when he still called me Mommy, and went to the kitchen to make coffee. The house was silent. A different kind of silence than before. Before it was peaceful. Now it was a cold war. I put the water on to boil and took out the cinnamon coffee I always liked to make on Wednesdays. Cinnamon brown sugar, the aroma that reminded me of my mother, of Sundays in her kitchen when the world was simpler. I heard footsteps. Ryan appeared yawning, still in his pajamas. His hair was messy, and he had that sleepy-eyed look that reminded me of when he was 10. "Morning, Mom," he mumbled, sitting at the table. For a second, just 1 second, I thought it had all been a nightmare, that yesterday's words never happened, that my son was still my son. "Good morning, son," I said. "Want some coffee?" "Yeah, please." I poured him a cup. He held it with both hands, just like he had since he was a kid. He took a long sip and sighed. "This is good," he said. "Thanks." We sat in silence. I waited. I waited for him to say something, to apologize, to explain that he was stressed that Jessica had pressured him, that he didn't mean to hurt me. But Ryan just drank his coffee and stared out the window. "Son," I started carefully. "About yesterday." He held up his hand like stopping traffic. "Mom, we already talked about it. There's nothing more to discuss." "But Ryan, that's my pension. It's all I have." He set the cup down harder than necessary. And this is the house where we all live, Mom. What do you expect us to live here for free, for Jessica and me to pay for everything while you save your money?" Those words hit me like ice water. "I pay the electricity," I said softly. "I pay the water. I pay the gas. I buy the food." That was before Mom, when you lived alone. Now there are more of us. The expenses went up. "Then why didn't you tell me? Why did you steal my card?" Ryan shot up from his chair. It scraped loudly against the floor. "Nobody stole anything. Jessica took the money because you wouldn't cooperate. Because every time we tried to talk about it, you changed the subject." I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "Cooperate in my own house." "Ryan, this house is mine," I said, and my voice trembled. "I earned it. I've maintained it all these years. You were living in your own apartment, and now you come here and tell me I have to pay to stay in my own home." He looked at me with an expression I had never seen before, cold, distant, like I was an annoying stranger. "Mom, Mr. Anderson loaned you the house. It was charity. It's not like you bought it." That word pierced me like a nail. Charity. My son thought everything I had was from pity, from the compassion of a lonely old man, not from work, not from effort, not from 25 years of lifting boxes, cleaning floors, and caring for a house that wasn't mine. Until it was. Charity. "Ryan." I tried again, but he was already walking to the door. "I have to get ready for work, and you should think about getting a job, too. You're not that old. You can't just sit at home all day." He left. I just stood there in the kitchen with the coffee pot still warm and my heart in pieces. When exactly had my son turned into this, I tried to remember. I searched my memory for a sign, any signal that told me when he started to change. And then I saw it. Jessica. Ever since she arrived, Ryan started seeing me differently. He used to call me 3 times a week just to say hello. He'd come for dinner on Sundays and help me in the garden. He'd ask about my medication, my blood pressure, if I needed anything. But after Jessica, the calls stopped. The visits became obligations. The conversations turned awkward. I remembered an afternoon 2 months after they moved in, I heard voices from their room. I was walking by with clean laundry when I heard her. "Ryan, your mom still treats you like a child. You're 32 years old. It's time you set some boundaries." That's just how she is, Jess. She's always been overprotective. She's not protective. She's controlling. Can't you see? She makes you feel guilty about everything. "Oh, son, don't worry about me." "Oh, son, I'll take care of it." She's manipulating you. I kept walking that day. I didn't want to hear any more. I thought it was just couples friction, normal adjustments. But it wasn't friction. It was poison, drop by drop, word by word. Jessica had been poisoning him against me for months. I drank my cold coffee in one gulp. It didn't taste like cinnamon anymore. It tasted like ash. I went to my room and opened the drawer with the key again. I took it out. I held it in my hand like a weapon. Because that's what it was. A weapon. The last defense of a mother who was losing her son. But it wasn't time yet. I still had a small hope that Ryan would snap out of it, that he would see what was happening, that he would remember who I was. I put the key away again. I would wait. Just a little longer. That afternoon when I got back from the market with groceries, paid for with the little cash I had left after Jessica emptied my account, I found the living room rearranged. My new curtains, the ones I had just hung last week, were thrown on the sofa. Jessica was measuring the window with a tape measure. "Oh, Linda." "Good you're here," she said, not even looking at me. "I'm going to buy some modern curtains. These ones you have look like a grandma's." Like a grandma's? I was 51. "Jessica, I bought those curtains last week. They cost me $50. She shrugged. "Well, I'll buy better ones. Don't worry, you'll love them." She didn't ask. She didn't consult me. She was just doing it. In my house. With my money. Or the money she now considered theirs. "Where's Ryan?" I asked. "Out with friends. He'll be late." So I was alone with her, in my own house, watching her dismantle everything I had built. That night, while I ate some refried beans and tortillas alone in the kitchen, I heard Jessica laughing from the living room. She was on the phone. Yeah, girl, almost. We've got her right where we want her. She's paying for everything without a fight. No, she's not going to leave. Where is she going to go? She has nothing. Just this house that was given to her out of pity. Give it a couple more months and we'll be able to. I got up without a sound and went to my room. I didn't sleep that night because I understood something terrible. This wasn't just contempt. This was a plan. I still wonder if I did the right thing. What would you have done in my place? The days that followed were the longest of my life. I kept doing everything as usual. I got up early, made breakfast, cleaned the house, did the laundry, as if nothing had changed, as if my hands weren't trembling every time I saw Jessica at the dining table, scrolling through her phone, her red nails shining, as if I hadn't heard that conversation. Give it a couple more months and we'll be able to... Able to what? That question haunted me. I tried to convince myself I had misunderstood, that maybe Jessica was talking about something else, but deep down I knew the truth. A mother always knows. Friday morning, Ryan left early for work. Jessica stayed home. She barely left the house anymore. She'd stay in her pajamas until noon watching shows, eating out of my pots without even heating up the food. I was in the backyard watering my roses when she came out. "Linda, I need to talk to you." I turned. Jessica had a folder in her hands, a blue one I hadn't seen. "What is it?" I said, my voice firmer than I felt. She sat in the iron chair my mother had given me years ago. She crossed her legs and opened the folder with calculated movements. "Look, I've been running the numbers," she began, "and this situation isn't sustainable." "What situation?" "The house expenses, Linda. Your pension isn't enough." I felt my chest tighten. "Jessica, my pension has always been enough. I've lived here for over 20 years and never needed anything." She smiled. That smile that set my teeth on edge. "Sure, when you lived alone, but now there are 3 of us. The electricity use is up, water is up, groceries, gas, everything." She pulled papers from the folder, receipts, numbers circled in red. "Look, here's the light bill, $700, the water $200, gas $150, groceries for the month about $1,000. And that's not counting extras. That's $2,050. She was saying the expenses were $2,050 a month. My pension was $2,500. "Jessica, those numbers can't be right. The light bill has never been over $250. She pushed the papers toward me. "Well, it is now. Check for yourself." I took the bills with trembling hands, and then I saw it. The light bill had the correct address, but the usage was absurd. It listed appliances I didn't own: a high-capacity front-load washer, a dryer, 2 air conditioners. I didn't have a dryer. I didn't have air conditioners. "This isn't from this house," I said. "Yes, it is, Linda. We had them installed last month. Didn't you notice?" I froze. "You installed air conditioners without asking me. Ryan and I decided it was too hot. It was necessary." "And who paid for it?" Jessica closed the folder slowly. "We put it on credit. A loan we now have to pay off monthly. That's why we need you to chip in more." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Jessica, you can't just make those decisions in my house without consulting me." She stood up. Her expression changed. The smile was gone. "Look, Linda, let's put our cards on the table. I know this house was given to you. I know you didn't pay a dime for it. Mr. Anderson left it to you out of pity because you were his employee. But that doesn't mean it's yours. It just means you got lucky." Every word was a slap. "And now Ryan and I are here," she continued. "We're family. We're your only family. Or do you have someone else?" Silence. "Exactly," she said. "You don't have anyone. So you can keep fighting about your light bills and your ugly curtains, or you can accept that things have changed, that you're not alone anymore, that now you have to share." She turned and went inside, leaving me standing there with the fake bills in my hands. That night, when Ryan got home, I was waiting for him. "Son, we need to talk." He sighed like I was a whining child. "What now, Mom?" "Jessica showed me some bills. She said the expenses are way up, that you installed air conditioners and a dryer without telling me." Ryan loosened his tie and dropped onto the sofa. "Yeah, Mom, We needed them. What's the problem? The problem is I didn't authorize those expenses. The problem is that loan isn't mine. The problem is this is my house. He looked at me with that new expression I hated. Annoyance. Mom, please, let's not start this again. Jessica is right. It's time for you to accept that you don't live alone anymore. We're a family, and families share. But Ryan. But nothing, Mom. I'm tired. I had a long day. Can we save the drama for another time? He got up and went to his room without eating. I just sat there. On the sofa I bought 10 years ago. In the living room I painted with my own hands. In the house that was mine. And for the first time in my life, I felt like an intruder. The next few days were worse. Jessica started treating me like I was the guest, the intruder. Linda, could you wash this? She'd ask, tossing her dirty clothes at me. Linda, we're out of dish soap. Go buy some. Linda, don't make so much noise in the morning. Ryan needs to sleep. And I obeyed. Why? Why did I let her? Because I was scared. Scared of losing my son forever. Scared of being completely alone. Scared that if I pushed too hard they would leave and I would never see Ryan again. So I kept quiet. I bowed my head. I did what they asked. I became the maid in my own home. One afternoon while I was cleaning the bathroom, their bathroom which they never cleaned, I found a shoebox under the sink. I opened it. Inside were papers, lots of papers, credit applications, all in my name, 3 credit cards, all in my name, and a notary document with my signature. But I hadn't signed anything. I sat on the cold bathroom floor, my hands shaking. The signature was good. Very good. But it wasn't mine. They had forged it. I heard footsteps. I quickly put everything back in the box and shoved it under the sink. I walked out of the bathroom. Jessica was in the hallway watching me. What were you doing in there so long, Linda? Cleaning, I said. It was very dirty. She stared at me for a long, eternal second. Then she smiled. Thanks, Linda. You're a sweetheart. That night I couldn't close my eyes, because now I knew everything. They didn't just want my pension, they wanted my house, and they were willing to steal it. As I tell this, I wonder where you're listening from. Write the name of your city in the comments. The next few days were a silent nightmare. I walked through my own house like a thief, afraid to make noise, afraid to look too closely, afraid that Jessica would notice that I knew, because now I knew. I knew they had forged my signature. I knew they had opened credit lines in my name. I knew this was all a carefully designed plan to take the only thing I had. But I needed more proof. I needed to understand how deep the deception went. Tuesday morning, Ryan left for work, and Jessica finally left to go to the salon. I had the house to myself for 2 hours. 2 hours to search. I went straight to their room, my old guest room, which now smelled like Jessica's sickly sweet perfume. The walls I had painted a soft yellow were now covered with photos of the two of them, as if this house was theirs, as if I was the one who didn't belong. I opened the closet. Expensive clothes. Too expensive for what Ryan earned. Designer shoes, handbags that cost more than my pension for 3 months. Where was this money coming from? I checked the drawers. Makeup, jewelry, nothing. Until I got to the last drawer of the nightstand. There it was. Another folder. This one was black. I took it out and opened it on the bed. My God. Bank statements. 3 different accounts. All in my name. All with huge negative balances. One credit card with a $9,000 debt. Another with $6,000. A third with $5,000. Over $20,000 in debt. In my name. I kept digging. More papers. A personal loan for $15,000? Approved. Deposited into an account that wasn't mine. Another loan for $10,000, also approved. And at the bottom of the folder, the worst part. A mortgage application for the house. My house. The application was in process. Date of request 2 weeks ago. Amount requested $150,000. There was a handwritten note from Jessica. When the loan comes through, we pay everything off and move to Miami Beach. She can't do anything without the original papers. We'll make her believe it's for renovations and sign everything with Ryan's cousin at the notary's office." I felt the floor open up beneath me. Ryan's cousin, Fred, the one who worked at a notary's office. The one my sister always said was shady. They were going to use contacts to forge documents, to mortgage my house, to take the money, to leave, and leave me with the debts, with the mortgage, with nothing. I sat on the bed because my legs wouldn't hold me. How long had they been planning this? Since before they knocked on my door that Sunday in October, I heard a car pull up. My heart leaped. I shoved everything back in the folder, put it in the drawer exactly as I found it, closed the nightstand. I got out of the room. I made it to the kitchen just as the front door opened. It was Jessica. She walked in carrying bags from an expensive department store, more clothes, more shoes, more things bought with money that wasn't hers, with my money, with my credit, with my name. "Oh, Linda, good you're here," she said, dropping the bags on the sofa. "I need you to do me a favor." I just looked at her, trying to control my breathing, trying not to scream what I had just discovered. "I have to go to a notary's office tomorrow to sign some papers. It's just some paperwork for Ryan's job. I need you to come with me as a witness." There it was, the moment they had been preparing. They were going to make me sign the mortgage. Right in front of me, making me believe it was for his job. "What kind of papers?" I asked. My voice sounded calmer than I expected. "Oh, I don't know. Something about taxes. You know how that stuff is. Just boring paperwork. But they need a family member to be present." A lie. It was all a lie. "What time?" I asked. 11 a.m. at the notary on Main Street, number 33. Fred's office. "Okay," I said. "I'll be there." Jessica smiled, that triumphant smile I knew so well. "Thanks, Linda. I knew we could count on you. You're the best." She went to her room with her bags. I heard her laughing, talking on the phone. "Yeah, girl, everything gets signed tomorrow. She doesn't suspect a thing. I told you it was easy. Just a stupid old woman who does whatever you ask." A stupid old woman. I was 51, and I was not stupid. That night when Ryan got home, he was in a good mood. A rare thing. "Mom, did Jess tell you about the notary's office tomorrow?" "Yes, son, she did." "Perfect. It's important that you go okay. Don't miss it." He looked me in the eyes, and for a second, just a second, I saw something. Guilt, doubt, remorse. But it vanished. "I won't miss it," I said. He nodded and went to eat. I stayed in the living room staring out the window. The night was dark, starless. I went to my room. I opened the drawer, took out the rusted key. This time I didn't put it back. I put the chain around my neck. I felt it cold against my skin. Tomorrow they thought I would sign their papers, that I would hand over my house, that I would let them steal everything I had worked for. But I had a plan too. A plan I had been saving since the day I received the original deed. A plan I never thought I'd have to use against my own son. I opened my closet and pulled out an old shoebox. Inside, wrapped in plastic, were the original documents for the house. The deed, in my name, signed, sealed, completely legal, and one other document, a will Mr. Anderson had me sign years ago. A will stating that the house was payment for 25 years of service, not an inheritance, not a gift, a legal payment, with his signature, with witnesses, all in order. And there was a letter written by Mr. Anderson 2 months before he died. "Linda, if anyone ever tries to take this house from you, use this letter. In it I explain that you were more than my employee. You were my friend, my family, and this house is yours by right, not by charity. Don't let anyone take what you earned with your work and your dignity. Signed, Alfonso Anderson." Tears rolled down my cheeks as I read that letter for the 10th time. Mr. Anderson had known. Somehow he had known that one day I would need protecting, even from my own blood. I put the documents in my purse. I would take them with me tomorrow. and when the time came to sign at that corrupt notary's office, I would pull out my own papers. And I would show my son and that woman that Linda was no one's fool, that mothers know how to fight back even when it breaks their own hearts. I still wonder if I did the right thing. What would you have done in my place? Wednesday morning dawned gray. I hadn't slept. I sat on my bed all night with my purse on my lap, inside the documents that would prove the truth, my only defense. At 7 a.m. I heard movement. Jessica and Ryan were up. I heard them talking quietly in the kitchen, nervous laughter, the sound of the coffee pot. I got up, showered, and put on my navy blue dress, the one I wore for important occasions. I combed my hair. I put on the pearl earrings my mother left me. If I was going to confront my son, I would do it with dignity. I walked out of my room at 8:30. Jessica was in the living room putting on makeup. She was wearing a tight red dress and high heels, like she was going to a party, not to steal a house. "Morning, Linda," she said, not looking at me. "Are you ready?" "Yes." "Perfect. Ryan left early, but he'll meet us there, at the notary's office. We leave in half an hour." 30 minutes. 30 minutes until they tried to take everything. I ate a small pastry and drank some coffee. I could barely swallow. My stomach was burning with nerves. At 10:20, Jessica called out, "Let's go, Linda. We can't be late." We got into her car, a white Jetta. I knew they had bought it with one of the fake loans in my name, another $20,000 charge somewhere. On the way, Jessica was singing along with the radio, happy, relaxed, as if she wasn't about to destroy my life. "Nervous, Linda?" she asked at a red light. "A little," I lied. "Don't be. It's just signing a few papers. 15 minutes in and out." 15 minutes to lose everything. We arrived at 10:55, an old building on Main Street. The sign read Notary Public, number 33, Fred Miller, Ryan's cousin. We went in. The receptionist showed us to a small waiting room. Dark wood paneling, framed degrees, all designed to inspire trust to make people sign without reading. Ryan was already there, sitting on a leather sofa, wearing a suit. He looked nervous. He looked guilty. "Hi, Mom," he said without standing up. "Hello, son." Jessica sat next to him, took his hand, whispered something. He nodded. I sat across from them, my purse on my lap, my heart pounding so hard I thought they could hear it. At 11 a.m. on the dot, a man came out of an office. Fred, Ryan's cousin. I recognized him from photos. 40-something, a mustache, a fake smile. "Good morning, family," he said. "Please come in." We entered his office. A large desk, 3 chairs, papers stacked neatly. "All right," Fred began. "As I explained to Ryan and Jessica today, we are going to formalize the mortgage application on the property located at 456 Morelos Street in the Willow Creek neighborhood." My house. He was talking about my house. "Mrs. Linda," he continued, looking at me. "You are the owner of the property according to our records. Is that correct?" "Yes," I said. "Perfect. And your son Ryan and daughter-in-law Jessica will be the beneficiaries of the loan which will be used for improvements on the property. Is everyone in agreement?" Jessica and Ryan nodded immediately. I said nothing. Fred pulled out a thick folder. He began to explain the terms. $150,000, a 20-year term, 12% interest. Numbers I knew would never be used for improvements. Numbers they would be taking to Miami Beach. "I need all 3 of you to sign here," Fred said, pointing to the lines. "First Mrs. Linda as the owner, then Ryan and Jessica as the applicants." He pushed the papers toward me. He offered me a pen. Everyone was staring at me. "Do you have any questions, Mrs. Linda?" Fred asked with that corrupt smile. I took the pen. I held it over the first document, and then I spoke. "Yes, I have a question." The silence in the room was thick. "Yes," Fred said, his smile faltering. "Did you review the original property documents?" Fred blinked. "Yes, of course. We have a certified copy of the deed right here." "A copy?" "Yes, ma'am. A certified copy is all that's required." I opened my purse slowly. I took out the documents I had guarded all night. "How strange," I said calmly. Because I have the original deed right here. I placed the document on his desk. The yellowed paper, the official seals, the signature of the notary from 25 years ago. My full name, Linda Rodriguez, sole owner. Fred turned pale. "Mom, what are you doing?" Ryan asked. "I'm doing what I should have done months ago, son. I'm defending what is mine." I took out the second document. "This," I said, "is the last will and testament of Mr. Alfonso Anderson, the man who employed me for 25 years, the man who bought this house and signed it over to me as payment for professional services rendered." Fred took the document with a trembling hand. He started to read. "It states clearly," I continued, "that the house was a legal transaction, not an inheritance, not a gift of charity, a payment, registered with a notary with witnesses, all legal." "Mom, what are you talking about?" Ryan stood up. "That house was a gift. Mr. Anderson left it to you." "No, Ryan. I earned that house. With 25 years of work, with every day I spent cleaning floors. That house is mine by right, not by pity." Jessica stood up too. Her face was white. "Linda, you're exaggerating. We just want to help, make improvements." "Improvements," I interrupted, and for the first time in months my voice was loud, firm, angry. "Do you think I'm so stupid that I don't know what you're doing?" I took out the third set of papers, the bank statements I found in her room. "These," I said, throwing them on the desk, "are the credit cards you opened in my name without my permission, $20,000 in debt that I didn't create, loans I never asked for, all with my forged signature." The room was dead silent. "Linda, I don't know what you're talking about," Jessica started. "Don't lie to me," I shouted, and it was the first time I had shouted in 6 months. "I found the folder in your room. I saw the note. When the loan comes through, we move to Miami Beach. I know everything." Jessica stumbled back. Ryan stared at me like I was crazy. Fred cleared his throat. "Ma'am, if what you're saying is true, this is a case of fraud. I cannot proceed with this transaction." "You won't proceed," I said, "because there is no transaction, because this house is not being mortgaged, because I am not signing anything." I turned to my son. "Ryan, look at me." He looked up. There were tears in his eyes. "Is it true?" I asked him. "Were you really willing to steal from me, to leave me on the street? Your own mother." "Mom, it wasn't like that. Jessica said you would be fine, that you could rent somewhere small, that you didn't need this much space." "And you believed her?" The tears started rolling down my face. "You believed her over your own mother, the mother who raised you alone." Ryan opened his mouth, but no sound came out. Jessica grabbed his arm. "Ryan, let's go. Your mother is crazy. She's making it all up." He didn't move. "My son," I said, my voice breaking, "I raised you by myself. I worked 30 years to give you a roof and education food. I never asked for anything in return. I only asked you to love me, to respect me." "Mom." "And you chose her. You chose a woman you've known for a year over me, a woman who has treated me like trash, a woman who planned to steal everything from me." Ryan started to cry. "I didn't want to. She said it was for the best, that you didn't need the house, that you were too old to maintain it." Every word was a dagger. "I am 51, Ryan. I'm not dead. I'm not useless. And that house is mine." I wiped my tears. I put my documents back in my purse. "I'm not going to press charges," I said, "because you are my son, and because even though you betrayed me, I am not like you." I walked to the door. "But I want you to know something. As of today, you are no longer welcome in my house. You have 3 days to get your things and find another place." "Mom?" "You can't kick us out," Ryan yelled. I turned. I looked him in the eye. "You told me, if you don't like it, you can leave. Remember? Well, now I'm saying the same to you. If you don't like it, you can leave." I walked out of that notary's office with my head held high. Outside, the sun had broken through the clouds, and for the first time in months, I could breathe. I still wonder if I did the right thing. What would you have done in my place? I took a taxi home. I didn't want to wait for Jessica. I didn't want to be near them for one more second. On the way, I just stared out the window. The streets were a blur. When I got to the house, I locked the door. I sat on the sofa in the living room, and for the first time in 6 months, I cried. I cried for the son I had lost, for the chubby-cheeked boy who called me Mommy and hugged me when he was scared, the young man who swore he'd always take care of me. Where did that boy go? I cried until I had no tears left. Then I got up, washed my face, and started doing what had to be done. I called the bank. I reported the fraudulent credit cards. I froze my account. I requested a new card. I called a locksmith. I asked him to come that afternoon and change every lock on the house. I called my cousin Brenda, the only family I had left. I told her everything. She cried with me over the phone. "Brenda, I need you to come," I said. "I need you to be here when they get back. I don't want to be alone." "I'm on my way, Linda. I'll be there in 30 minutes. At 3 p.m., the locksmith arrived. He changed all 3 locks. He gave me 6 sets of new keys. At 4 p.m., Brenda arrived with her husband, Mark. They came in carrying bags of food. "You're not going through this alone," she said, hugging me. We sat in the kitchen. I told them everything, every detail. "That boy let himself be poisoned," Mark said. "That woman is evil." At 6 p.m., we heard a car pull up, the white Jetta. Brenda and Mark stood up immediately, standing beside me, like guardians. I heard the sound of a key in the lock trying to turn. It wouldn't. Banging on the door. "Mom, open the door." It was Ryan's voice, desperate, furious. I took a deep breath. I walked to the door, but I didn't open it. "I've already changed the locks," I said from inside. "I told you, you have 3 days to find another place." "Mom, don't be ridiculous. We have to get in. Our stuff is in there." "You can come for your things tomorrow at 10 a.m. I will pack everything and leave it on the porch, but you are not coming into this house." "This is crazy," Jessica yelled. "You can't just kick us out. I'm calling the police." "Go ahead," I said calmly, "and I'll show them the fraudulent documents, the credit cards you opened with my forged signature, the loan applications. We'll see who gets arrested." Silence on the other side. "Mom, please." Ryan's voice was broken. "Let's talk. We can fix this." "There's nothing to fix, Ryan. You made your decision when you decided to rob me, when you chose to believe her instead of your own mother." "I didn't want to. She convinced me." "And you let her." More silence. "That's the difference between us, son. I would never have done that, because I know what's right. And you chose what was easy." "Mom, tomorrow at 10, your things will be outside. And after that, Ryan, I don't want to see you again." Those last words cost me everything. Every letter was a piece of my heart being ripped out. "You can't say that," Ryan cried. "I'm your son." "You were my son," I said, tears streaming down my face. "The son I raised wouldn't have betrayed me like this." I heard sobs from the other side. "Let's go, Ryan," Jessica said, her voice hard. "Your mother will regret this." "I won't regret it," I said. "The only thing I regret is opening my door that Sunday, trusting you." I heard footsteps walking away, the car starting, the sound fading. I collapsed against the door. Brenda hugged me as I wept. "It's over, cousin. It's over." But it wasn't. It was just beginning. That night, Brenda and Mark stayed with me. I couldn't eat. I couldn't talk. All I could feel was the pain. I had just lost my son. At 11 p.m., they left. They made me promise to call if I needed anything. I was alone in the house, my house. I walked into the guest room, their room, clothes on the floor, perfume bottles, photos of them. All of it would be gone tomorrow. I opened the closet. There was the black folder, the proof of their fraud. I took it. And I put it in a box with all their other belongings. Let them take it. Let them know that I knew. I worked all night, packing, folding, 10 boxes. All their expensive shoes, their clothes, their fake bags, all bought with stolen money. At 6 a.m., I was done. I sat on the porch step to wait. At 10 a.m., the white Jetta pulled up. Ryan got out alone. Jessica stayed in the car windows, up, sunglasses on. My son looked terrible. Eyes swollen, clothes wrinkled, 2 days of stubble. "Mom," he said. I didn't answer. I just pointed at the boxes. "It's all there." He looked at the boxes, then at me. "Are you really going to do this? You did it first, Ryan. I'm just protecting myself." Mom, please, give me a chance. We can talk. I can explain. Explain what? How you forged my signature. How you planned to leave me homeless and in debt. How you treated me like trash for months. You did, Ryan. And you knew it. You let her do it. You chose her. A wife of 1 year. Over your mother of 32. He dropped his shoulders. I'm sorry, Mom. I'm sorry too, son. I'm sorry I wasn't enough. I'm sorry I failed you somehow. I'm sorry you grew up thinking it's okay to betray the person who loves you. You didn't fail me. His voice cracked. Then I don't understand what happened. Where is the boy who promised to take care of me? The one who said he'd buy me a house with a garden? Tears were rolling down his face. It's still me, Mom. I shook my head. No, Ryan. That boy is gone. And you killed him. I stood up. I went inside. I closed the door. I heard him crying on the other side. I heard him load the boxes one by one. I heard the car drive away. And when the silence returned, I sat on the living room floor and cried like I had never cried in my life. Because I had won my house, but I had lost my son. The days that followed were the quietest of my life. The house was empty. The silence was an absence. Brenda came every day. She brought food I barely touched. Time heals Linda, she'd say. A week later, I went to the bank to fix the mess. The bank manager looked worried. Mrs. Linda, you have 3 active credit cards with very high balances and 2 personal loans in default. I didn't apply for any of them, I explained. It was fraud. I have proof. I showed her the documents. This is serious, she said. We'll open an investigation, but the process can take months. What can I do? You can file a formal lawsuit. You have a strong case, but you'll need a lawyer. I left the bank with a weight on my chest. Sue, my own son. Put him in jail. I sat on a park bench, and then I knew. I wasn't going to sue him. I wasn't going to destroy his life like he tried to destroy mine, because I wasn't like them. But I wasn't going to rescue him either. For years, I had been Ryan's safety net. When he failed a semester, I paid for it. When he lost his first job, I loaned him money. When he crashed his car, I paid the deductible. Always me, always saving him. But that was over. If Ryan was going to learn, he had to do it alone. He had to face the consequences. I went back to the bank the next day with a lawyer Brenda recommended. Mrs. Linda, you have 2 options, he explained. First, criminal charges for fraud. Second, a civil suit to clear your name of the debts. What's the difference? The criminal suit seeks punishment. The civil suit seeks to protect you. With the criminal suit, your son could go to prison. With the civil suit, the debts are transferred to his name and his wife's, but there are no criminal charges. I didn't hesitate. The civil suit. I just want my name cleared, nothing more. The lawyer nodded. You are a very noble woman. I'm not noble, I said. I'm just tired of fighting. The process began that week. My life slowly returned to something like normal. I started making my cinnamon coffee again. I watered my roses. The house smelled like my home again. 2 weeks after Ryan left, I got a call. It was him. My heart leaped. I hesitated, then answered. Hello. Mom. His voice was broken, desperate. I need your help. I closed my eyes. What happened, Ryan? Jessica, she left. She left me. She took all the money we had. I'm alone. I have nowhere to live. They kicked me out of the apartment. Mom, please, I need to come home. Every word hurt, but something new inside me, something strong held firm. No, Ryan. What? You can't come back. This house isn't your home anymore. Mom, please, I have no one else. Jessica left me with all the debts. I'm getting collection calls all day. I'm going to lose my job. Those are the consequences of your decisions, son. How can you be so cruel? I'm your son. My voice broke, but I didn't back down. And I'm your mother, the mother you tried to rob. The mother you treated like trash. Remember, I already said I'm sorry. What else do you want? I want you to grow up, Ryan. I want you to understand that actions have consequences. I want you to learn to be a man. Mom, for 32 years, I've saved you from everything. I protected you, and look at you. You became someone who steals from his own mother, someone who lets himself be manipulated, someone with no backbone. The words were hard, but they were necessary. So no, Ryan, I'm not saving you this time. You're going to have to save yourself. And if I can't, then you'll learn. Just like I learned when your father left me alone with a 5-year-old. No one saved me, Ryan. I saved myself. Silence. That's easy for you to say, he mumbled. Easy. I laughed a bitter laugh. Ryan, I sold tortillas to feed you. I worked 12-hour days to pay for your school. I stayed up all night sewing to buy your supplies. And I never asked you to thank me. I only asked you to be a good man, and you failed. Mom, please, get help, son. Call your friends. Call Brenda. Find a job. Find a way. But don't call me. You're abandoning me. Tears were streaming down my face. No, Ryan, you abandoned me first. I'm just letting you face what you created. You're going to regret this. Maybe, but at least I'll be able to look at myself in the mirror. I hung up. I sat there trembling. Brenda arrived half an hour later and found me crying. What happened? I told her. She held me tight. You did the right thing, Linda. For the first time in your life, you set a boundary. That's not cruel. That's wise. But what if something happens to him? What if he ends up on the street? It's not your responsibility. Not anymore. He's 32. It's time he learned. That night, I wrote a letter I never sent. Ryan, I hope one day you understand why I did this. It wasn't to punish you. It was to save you. Because a son who depends on his mother at 32 isn't a son. He's a child in a man's body. And I did you no favors by protecting you so much. I made you weak. I made you vulnerable. So now I'm letting you go. I'm letting you fall, so you can learn to get up. Because I won't be here forever. I put the letter in my drawer, next to the rusted key I no longer needed, because the real key was never metal. It was the courage to say no, the courage to set boundaries, the courage to let go. 3 months passed. I slowly rebuilt my real life. I repainted the walls. That soft yellow I always loved, the one Jessica said was for old ladies. I hung my photos again. The floral curtains went back up. I got a part-time job at a local bookstore. Not for the money. My pension was more than enough now, but I needed it for my soul, to get out, to talk to people. Brenda still came on Wednesdays. We drank coffee and talked about everything, except Ryan, until one Wednesday in July. Cousin, I need to tell you something. My heart tightened. What is it, Ryan? She nodded. I saw him yesterday, at the market. I sat down slowly. How is he? Brenda hesitated. He doesn't look good, Linda. Really bad. How bad? Skinny, worn out, old clothes. He was buying the cheapest food, beans, rice, nothing else. My chest ached. Did he talk to you? Yes. He asked about you. I told him you were fine. He started crying right there in the middle of the market. Tears stung my eyes. Did he say anything else? He said Jessica left him with all the debts, that she ran off with another man, one with real money, that she just used him to try and steal your house. When the plan failed, she abandoned him. I closed my eyes. Where is he living? In a rented room, a tiny place in the industrial park. He said he lost his job because of the collection calls. He got something in a warehouse, loading boxes, 12 hours a day. My son, my Ryan. Loading boxes. Did he ask you for money? I asked. No, I offered, but he refused. He said he had to learn to handle it himself. He said his mom was right. The tears were flowing freely now. Cousin, why are you crying? Isn't this what you wanted, for him to learn? Yes, I whispered, but I didn't think it would hurt so much to watch him fall. Brenda took my hand. Do you want me to go find him? Do you want to talk to him? I shook my head. Not yet. He's not ready, and neither am I. But the news kept coming. Through Brenda, through neighbors. Ryan had lost weight. 30 pounds, they said. His face was hollow. The debts were crushing him. The banks had started legal proceedings. My lawyer had successfully cleared my name. But now it all fell on Ryan. Over $30,000. Jessica had vanished. Rumor was she was in Cancun with a businessman, living the life she wanted to build with my money. In September, 6 months after he left, I got another call from Ryan. This time, I answered on the first ring. "Hello? Mom." His voice was different, softer, humble. "I know you don't want to talk to me, but I needed to tell you something." "What is it?" "You were right. About everything. I was a fool, a coward, a bad son." I said nothing. I just listened. "Jessica left me on the street. She took everything. She left me with the debts and a letter saying I was too weak to be a real man." A bitter laugh came from his throat. "You know the saddest part, Mom." "She's right. I am weak. I always was. And you told me. But I didn't want to listen." "Ryan?" "No. Let me finish. Please." He took a deep breath. "These months, they've been the worst of my life. I have no money. I can barely pay for my room. I eat once a day. I work 12 hours loading boxes. I'm so tired I just fall asleep in my clothes. The collectors call me every day. They threaten me. And I have no way to pay." Every word was a knife in my heart. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked, my voice trembling. "Because I want you to know that I get it. I understand what you tried to teach me. That life doesn't forgive. That decisions have consequences. That you can't betray someone who loves you and expect it to be okay." Silence. "I'm not asking you to help Mom. I'm not asking for money or to come back. I just want you to know that I'm sorry. I'm truly sorry. And I hope one day you can forgive me." Tears were dropping onto my lap. "Ryan, You don't have to say anything. Just thanks for answering. Thanks for listening." He hung up before I could reply. I sat there crying. I didn't sleep that night. I thought about my son, his broken voice, his ruined life. Was this what I wanted to see him suffer so much? No. But it wasn't my job to save him. Life, that cruel but fair teacher, was collecting the debt he owed. Daniela had used him and thrown him away, just like he had thrown me away. The debts haunted him, just as he had haunted me for my money. Life always collects, sometimes with interest. One afternoon in October, 7 months after everything, I was in the garden watering my roses when I heard a knock. I opened the door. It was Ryan. But not the arrogant Ryan, not the man in the suit. This was a thin man with a scruffy beard, worn-out clothes. He had dark circles under his eyes. His hands were dirty from work. "Mom," he said, and his voice broke immediately. "I'm not here to ask for anything. I came to bring you this." He held out an envelope. I opened it. Inside was $40 in crumpled bills. "It's all I could save this month," he said. "I know I owe you so much more. I know I can never repay what we did, but I want to try, even if it takes me the rest of my life." I looked him in the eyes, and for the first time in months, I saw my real son. Not the manipulated man, not the thief, not the traitor. I saw the boy who had once promised to take care of me, the boy who was finally trying to grow up. "I don't want your money, Ryan. But Mom, keep it. Use it for food, to pay for your room, to get out of debt." He shook his head, tears rolling down his dirty face. "I don't deserve your forgiveness." "No," I said firmly. "You don't. Not yet. But someday, maybe. When you are the man you were always supposed to be. That day we'll talk." He nodded. He wiped his tears on his sleeve. "I love you, Mom. I always loved you even when I was being an idiot." "I love you too, son. That's why I let you fall, so you could learn to fly." I closed the door gently. I heard him crying on the other side for a long minute. then his footsteps walking away. I sat on the sofa, the $40 in my hand, and I smiled. Because life had given Ryan exactly what he deserved: pain, loneliness, consequences. But also, something more important: a chance at redemption. A chance to be better. And that chance, he had earned it. With suffering, with humility, with work. Justice had arrived. Not with my vengeance, but with the natural balance of life. 2 years have passed since that day at the notary's office. 2 years since I got my house back, my dignity, my life. Today I'm 53. My hair is grayer. I have more wrinkles. But I also have something I didn't have before: peace. Real peace. The kind that comes from knowing who you are and what you deserve. I'm still living in my house in Willow Creek. The walls are yellow, that soft yellow I always loved, and the windows have floral curtains. In the garden, my roses are blooming more beautifully than ever. I work at the bookstore 3 times a week, not because I need to, but because I like to. Brenda still visits on Wednesdays. We drink cinnamon coffee and talk about everything. And sometimes, only sometimes, we talk about Ryan, because yes, Ryan is still in my life. But in a different way. After that day, he brought me the $40 he kept coming. Once a month, always on time, always with an envelope of money that I never accept, but that he insists on bringing. "It's for my dignity, Mom," he says, "not yours." And I understand. At first our conversations were short, awkward. He'd tell me about his warehouse job. I'd tell him about the bookstore. But slowly the wounds began to heal. 6 months ago, Ryan got a better job at a logistics company. Not great, but better than loading boxes. He rented a small apartment. He started paying off his debts little by little, he tells me with pride. And I listen, my heart full. Because my son is growing up. Finally. 3 months ago, he asked if he could come for dinner one Sunday. "Only if you want to, Mom. I don't feel like I have the right to ask, but I miss your enchiladas." I smiled. "Come next Sunday, at 2. He arrived on time, with flowers, yellow roses. "I know they're your favorite," he said. We ate together at the dining room table, the same table where Jessica once counted my pension money, the same table where everything broke. But it was different now. Ryan ate slowly, thankfully. "Mom," he said when we finished, "I need to tell you something." My heart tightened. "What is it, son?" "I've been going to therapy for 4 months now." I looked at him surprised. "Therapy?" He nodded. "I needed to understand how I could do what I did, how I could betray you like that, and my therapist helped me see that I was always weak, that I always looked for someone else to tell me what to do. First you, then Jessica. I never learned to be my own person, to be responsible." He wiped his eyes. "And he helped me understand that you didn't fail me. I failed you. By not growing up. By letting myself be manipulated." Tears were rolling down his face. I also realized Jessica wasn't just evil. She was broken. Like me, trying to fill a hole with stuff, with lies. But the difference is, she'll never change, and I can. I stood up from my chair, and I hugged him. He sobbed on my shoulder just like when he was a little boy. "Forgive me, Mom. Please. Forgive me." "I already forgive you, son. A long time ago. Really. Really. Because I see you trying. I see you growing. And that's all I ever wanted for you." Since that day, Ryan comes for dinner every Sunday. He doesn't live with me. He doesn't ask me for money. He doesn't expect me to rescue him. He just comes to talk, to be together, to rebuild. And I welcome him, with love, but also with boundaries. Because I learned something important. Loving doesn't mean enabling. Loving also means knowing when to say no. When to let someone face their consequences. When to let go. A week ago, Ryan told me he finished paying off the last debt. "I don't owe anyone anything, Mom. Well, except you. I owe you everything. "You don't owe me anything, son." "I do. I owe you an apology that will never be enough. I owe you the years of peace I stole from you. I owe you the respect I didn't give you." "Then pay me back by being a good man, by being honest, by being strong. That's the only debt I want you to pay." He smiled, a sad smile but hopeful. "I'll try, Mom. Every day I'll try." Today, as I write this in my journal, I look out the window at my yellow roses, and I think about everything I went through. The pain, the betrayal, the loneliness. But I also think about what I gained. I won my house. I won my dignity. I won my peace. And most of all, I gained the certainty that I can be alone without being empty. That my value doesn't depend on how much others love me, but on how much I love myself. If I could talk to the Linda from 2 years ago, that scared woman who let them walk all over her, I would tell her this: don't be afraid to defend yourself. Don't be afraid to set boundaries. Don't be afraid to be alone. Because loneliness with dignity is better than company with humiliation. I would tell her that it's okay to love your son, but it's also okay to not let him destroy you. And I would tell her that forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. You can forgive and still keep your distance. You can love and still protect yourself, because love without limits isn't love, it's self-destruction. Today at 53, I know who I am. I am Linda, a woman who worked 30 years for her home, a mother who loved so much she almost lost herself, a survivor who learned to fight back. And if my story can help just one other person to open their eyes, to set boundaries, to value themselves, then everything I suffered was worth it. Because sometimes mothers also need to learn to let go, to let their children fall so they can learn to get up. And even though it hurts, it's the only way they truly grow. Life taught me that justice doesn't always come quickly, but it comes. Jessica is still out there, I suppose, looking for her next victim, living her empty life. And Ryan is here, fighting, growing, becoming the man he was always supposed to be. Will we ever be like we were before? No. Never, because before I was blind and he was a child. Now I see clearly and he is a man, and that is a much more honest, much more real relationship. I close my diary. It's 2 p.m. Ryan will be here soon for Sunday dinner. I get up and go to the kitchen to make the enchiladas he loves, and as I cook, I smile, because my house smells like cinnamon again, because my walls are yellow again, because my heart is calm again, and because I learned the most important lesson: you can't save anyone who doesn't want to save themselves. But you can save yourself, and that in the end is the only thing that matters. Thank you for listening to my story. If it touched your heart, please subscribe to Elderly Stories and ring the bell. You'll hear more stories from people who turned their pain into wisdom. Share this story with someone you love. Sometimes a story like this can change a person's entire day. God bless you, and until next time.